fantastic women, mighty women guest speakers. We have with us Bridget Tolley from Families of Sister in Spirit. Bridget, are you here? Yes, there she is. Also Cecilia, Diocasson, and Joanne, Vazquez from the Philippine Women's Center at Quebec. If you don't mind coming up to the stage. Legault, she's a mighty feminist activist and also founder of Rebel. And I'd like to just invite all of them to come and say a couple of words about the amazing work they do. Yeah, how can you get involved as well?
Hi, good evening everyone, bonsoir. Happy International Women's Day. Thank you very much for inviting us here, Svetla and also Karen. My name is Cecilia, and I'm the Executive Director of the National Alliance of Philippine Women in Canada. And I'll give you to Joanne.
Good evening, everyone. Happy International Women's Day. My name is Joanne Vazquez, and I'm the founding chairperson of the Philippine Women's Center of Quebec.
Hello, bonjour. First I want to acknowledge the land we're on, the Mohawk territory. So I want to thank them for allowing us here tonight. My name is Bridget Tolley. I'm from Families of Sisters in Spirit. And we have been, we started a grassroots, all-volunteer nonprofit organization in 2010 when the government cut the funding for the Sisters in Spirit program that the Native Women's Association of Canada had. So we are alive and well. We are not another chapter in Harper's history books, and we continue to support missing and murdered Aboriginal families.
Bonjour, hi, good evening. My name is Legault, and I'm one of the co-founders of the Rebels movement, which is a pan-Canadian young feminist movement, which I'm not part of anymore, not because we fought, but because I'm too old. So, just like a quick question, have you ever heard of Rebel? Like, just raise your hand if you have. Yeah, there's a couple Rebel in the crowd, right? I know them, some of them. So, Rebel, just a few words, is a pan-Canadian young feminist movement, which is very unapologetic about being anti-capitalist, anti-colonialist, and anti-patriarchy. So, Bonne Journée Internationale des Femmes, and shut down patriarchy.
And now I'd like to invite our most special guest tonight. This is the director of the film that you will see. Karen is a Concordia graduate, if there are any students in the crowd. You should probably know that. And her work is just extremely inspiring, and we're very, very thrilled to have her here with us tonight for the Montreal premiere of the film. So please welcome Karen.
Thanks everyone for coming out in such big numbers. It's really great to see everyone. I'd like to thank Cinema Politica for hosting the film and the National Film Board for making the film. I think the National Film Board is the only place right now that you can do a film on feminism and get it funded and get it finished. So thanks to the National Film Board. I'd also like to acknowledge, besides from the lovely women here who are in the film, there are members of our crew in the audience. We've got Catherine Giguère somewhere up there, who was the DP of the film. Our sound editor. We also have another Catherine, our sound, one of our sound recorders, Lynn Trepanier was another one. So we had a lot of local people here from Montreal working on the film, and they're here as well. So enjoy, and we'll talk after the film. It's really difficult with a subject like feminism. I mean, feminism was one of the most prolific social movements of our time. It completely transformed the Canadian landscape and all over the world. So it was difficult to choose what issues to focus on. Part of that choice was I knew that there had been this Royal Commission on the Status of Women, and I was trying to find subjects that were brought up in that era and present-day stories that were continuing. that story. And in some ways, you know, violence against women, childcare, abortion rights are real kind of feminism 101, real basic staples of the feminist movement. But as a starting point, I mean, when I started this film, I would definitely not have called myself a feminist. Barbara can attest to that because she was one of the first people I met. And now I'm a raging, proud feminist. And I think a lot of that has to do with, you know, growing up in an era where you had, you know, where I had a lot of privilege in my life, so I felt that I had all my rights, I was equal, and what is all this business, what are these people complaining about, you know? But then as I went into the research and I started talking to women who were there during the second wave and women today, talking about the conditions of their lives, I realized so many of these issues, there's parallels between the history and the present, and there's so much left to be done. I mean, just the fact that there's 600 missing and murdered Aboriginal women in this country says a lot about the status of violence and equality for women in this country. Yeah, sure. No, that's a really great point that you make. It is really hard because feminism is so big. It's like, what do you put in the film? What don't you put in the film? And, you know, even the act of pointing the camera in a certain direction, it's everything outside of that camera frame that gets cut out of the film. So, for sure, I mean, trans issues are something that I'd say the new feminist movement and the present-day feminist movement is really kind of expanding on what women fight for and the kinds of issues that we bring up, and even the concept of gender. I know having been in the film for people who are aware of trans issues is really controversial. As is having someone like Sunera Chubani, who is also quite divisive in her age. So for sure, trans issues are a big issue, and especially in the present-day feminist movement. But they're also issues that require a lot of time to go into them in depth, and I didn't want to do that in a kind of tokenistic way in this film. So that's why, I mean, there wasn't, unfortunately, time to go into that in this film. But what it does mean is that, you know, this definitely shouldn't be the only or the first or the last film on feminism. I mean, I hope this kind of film, you know, inspires other women to tell their stories and to talk about the conditions in their lives and the issues that they're dealing with. Because, you know, the CBC did like a 10-part series on hockey, right? We can do a 10-part series on hockey. You know, for sure we can make more films on all of these issues that are so diverse in the feminist movement.
Maybe to just give my little grain of salt, is that an expression in English? Yeah, okay, cool, it's in French too. On that matter, I was thinking in the last few years about, you know, gender binary and patriarchy and heterosexism, like a lot of us have been thinking about, or hopefully, I hope anyways. And basically, the only thing I want to share here is that I think that for the Francophone feminist movement, at least in Quebec, and also for all feminist movements outside women's studies and women and gender studies, because that is an issue that is discussed a lot and tackled a lot in women's studies. But it's not an issue, it's a reality, it's, you know, so I think that it's one of the next struggle, or not that it's not, my God, I'm having a hard time speaking in English, I'm sorry. But not that the feminist movement is not fighting the gender binary, like it's Simone de Beauvoir who said first, like, we're not born women, we become women. We become women, okay, I'm translating. On ne naît pas femme, on le devient. So basically, like, for me, the gender binary and the perception of gender and what makes gender, what builds gender, is a feminist issue. And I think that for many reasons, it hasn't been at the center of our struggle for the last, I don't know, many decades. I don't know if it has ever been in the center, and I don't think it has. And I think that questioning gender is something very liberating for not only women, but for men and other gendered people, and, you know, trans folks and genderqueer people, and and all that stuff. So basically I think it's an extremely important, and it's totally, anyways, I can't get into it more, but if people want to talk about it later, I'd be interested in hearing what you have to say about it.
I just wanted to say thanks a lot to Karen for this really great film. You know, I really like the title of it as well, Unfinished Business of Feminism. It's really showing that there's a perception that feminism has advanced, but then you've really brought it out quite clearly how we're still at the same point as well. And I think this is something that can be carried around anywhere and will also help inspire and rejuvenate action as well. So I think that's a wonderful thing.
Well, patriarchy is everywhere, right? But I think that social policies have a huge impact. So we saw in the movie that in New Brunswick, the law is different, or the way the law is applied is different about the way we get an abortion. So definitely about that aspect, New Brunswick is definitely the worst place, or PEI, because there's no abortion service, public abortion service on the island. But in general, I can't comment on where it's better or where it's worse, but what I can say is that Quebec is the only place where there's a publicly funded National Quebec child care program. And that is definitely powerful. Also, I heard earlier that there were no more women's centers in Canada. Well, there's over 120 women's centers throughout Quebec. And I think that is a very powerful. They're grassroots organizations that work with women every day. There's like shelters, and there's a lot of women and feminist organizations in Quebec, and also in the rest of Canada. But there is a pretty big difference in terms of how the feminist movement is organized or is rooted in organization, or where does it get its funding. Like, Quebec is one of the only and last province where there's provincial, and it's decreasing, but provincial funding for women's organization that are not mainly focused towards services like shelters, or and in almost all the other provinces, these organizations that were doing advocacy and you know, protesting and political work and consciousness raising and all that stuff, well, they were just shut down by the cuts in funding. Anyway, so I'm not like saying Quebec is the best place, but I'm saying that there are like social structures and community organizations that are here, and I think that, you know, it's something that I hope can, anyways, I think, last word, I think that by one of the reasons why we built the Rebels movement, the Pan-Canadian Young Feminist movement, was because we wanted to unite as feminists to fight and get changes in Ottawa, and especially with the election of the Conservatives, and the re-election of the Conservatives, like, and all the threats to women's rights, and all the abortion criminalization bills, and, you know, LGBT stuff, questioning gay marriage, and anyways, it's like super anti-social, anti-women, anti-feminist, anti-black, anti-poor, anti-indigenous policies, basically. It's a horrible government, right? I think we agree. Anyways, we got to get rid of Harper. We got to get rid of the Conservative. That is for sure, absolutely for sure. But we have to organize, like Comrade here said, like organize. What does organize mean? Organize means get to know the people around you who share either specific issues or specific, like a same problem or same analysis, and get together and see what you can do, and just fucking do it, you know? Just do it. Get into action. Just do it. Anyway, so building a Pan-Canadian Young Feminist movement is one of the things, but we need to freaking learn and educate each other. And popular education is an extremely powerful tool, and educate each other, listen to each other, learn from each other, and build and organize and try and fail and try again and fail and try again and fight to win and eventually win, you know? Winning is not just getting rid of Harper, but it's a freaking good step, you know? So.
Thank you very much for a very wonderful comment there, that we really need to look at ourselves. We don't have to be angry, yes, but sometimes you cannot stop it. Where we have to be angry. especially when, you see that the promises of the government there, all governments, whether conservative or the liberal government, they do the same program. There's no difference. Even the NDP, they sometimes also, not sometimes, but they have programs too that they just, implement what is the program of the last government. So we really need to look at deeper. And when we organize, in our community, we study. We have to study, we have to mobilize, and we have to organize. Without these three elements, I don't think we'll be able to organize our women, our youth, and our community. We're not big, but at the same time, we're deepening the education that we're having. For example, in the Women's Studies program, when we were organizing in Vancouver, we have no capacity to study the woman's question. But we have the capacity to organize our women, to look at their situation, hear their stories, and put them together, and collectively we analyze our own situation. We use this to also study the other movements. And so because we cannot, and they cannot go to the universities, how many of our young people can go to universities just like you guys? You're privileged, okay? Our community is so underprivileged. We're so marginalized. So what we did is to organize a women's study program in our community. Same as the program that you have in the university, but they're not credited. We get our own credits, we get educated. We have Sonira come to our community and listen to what we do and get their feedback. We connect with university professors. So when they say that we're grassroots, we're not scientific, we just don't listen to this because we know that we're using scientific method. So in organizing, we have to revolutionize our method. From our sisters from the First Nation, it's very clear that we need a revolution. We need a revolution in this country to be able to effect change. I don't think that to look at the rights and to lobby the government, they're not going to listen anymore. I've met all those ministers, Ministry of Immigration. I've lobbied and all the government that changes and all that preachy, and they just smile at you. Especially First Nations and women of color. We just say, okay, we hear you, we fly you to Ottawa, we pay your hotel, and we'll listen to you, but nothing is going to happen. Okay, and these are the stories that we also give to the next generation. And this country is your country too. I mean, I'm a Filipino-Canadian, but I'm also a Canadian. My kids are Canadian. My children are also born here in Quebec, so they're also Quebecois. So I mean, we have something at stake here. And we need to look at that. We need to have programs. We have to examine the program. What is the problem with us, especially in the left, is because we're also fragmented. We cannot come together and talk our issues. That this is what we need in this country. And we're also shy to say that this is what we need in Canada today. Other countries are already saying, this is our national program. This is what we want for Canada. This is what we want for our next generation. We're so individualistic. And this is what is happening to us. And so we need to really re-examine that. And at the center, we as women, we start to take the password or the keyword in our organizing and in our women's group is to go through a revolutionary road And so this is always the theme in every Women's International Women's Day. We have to go through the revolutionary road. It's difficult. It's painstaking when you go there, like the potholes in Montreal. There is no easy way, right? No easy way. So this is what we have to go through. No easy way. And hopefully, in the future, we'll be able to say that this is the alternative for Canadians. And in our community, we are not afraid to say that we are going to help build a socialist movement in Canada today.